time for another Advent devotion, and today our devotion is titled The Strains of Christmas, and it was written by John Upchurch. Galatians 4:4-5 says, "But when the time had fully come, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under law, to redeem those under law, that we might receive full rights of sons." Christmas at my house meant preparing for the worst. The worst didn't always come, but you couldn't be too careful. You see, the thing about holidays is that people tend to be together, pushed into the same room by tradition and baked turkey. My family spent most of the year avoiding such things as we hurried off to school or work, buried ourselves in music or books, and generally enjoyed the comfort of a closed door. We could usually navigate the raging monsters of family Thanksgiving because it only meant a day together before we scattered again. But while we chewed stuffing, my father would chew on his disappointment over his life and his family. My older brothers would try not to notice. The tryptophan made us all too sleepy for much more. At least that's what I like to think. But then Christmas came lumbering into the Upchurch household with all its vacation days. We had too much time off and too many unspoken issues. We were like a pot of boiling potatoes with water sloshing out on the stove. There'd be some sizzling over of a lack of a job, a splash or two over how much something cost, and then boom, the lid blew off. An hour and 2 new holes in the wall later, we surveyed the wreckage of the Yuletide cheer. My brothers would fume back into the basement. My father would escape to his computer, and Mom would just try to figure out what to do. Usually, the anger just sunk back to the bottom of the pot for another year. When I moved out of my house, it took years for Christmas to reclaim its festive atmosphere. Even when the war ended, the shell shock didn't. There were too many things unsaid, too many things not dealt with. The embers of home-fought battles wouldn't die down. Then Christ. Describing salvation couldn't be better summed up than in those 2 words set apart in their own paragraph. Then Christ. There was no choir of angels singing, audibly to me at least, or a special star shining down on my apartment. But it was a moment that clearly separates time into 2 epochs. That separation is both for BC and AD, and OJ and NJ, meaning Old John and New John. As this New John, though, I noticed something that might as well have been as miraculous as angels breaking out in tunes over my head. When Christmas came, the dread didn't. In fact, I even looked forward to it. No, the tension didn't suddenly melt away. The tempers weren't all snuffed out, and there were still moments that stretched tightly across our gatherings. But I now knew something just slightly flipped the world upside down, mind-blowingly awesome. A baby, a poor baby born and away from home, had taken this worst this world has to offer. A king wanted him dead, and his country had no place for him. But still he came for me and for you. Christmas has no shortage of strains. It's a holiday that seems perfectly designed for stress, at least in the way we Westerners celebrate. Family tension has a way of bubbling up with the eggnog, and old arguments never seem to die. But my prayer is that you aren't afraid to face the day. Not just face it, but be filled with the mystery of it all. Here is a day to remember our God adding humanity to deity and giving up the sweet spot in heaven to plop himself in our world. He came because he didn't hold our sin against us. He wanted to hold it for us. And when you keep that perspective, family arguments and stress suddenly seem trivial amid the menagerie of hams and yams and red velvet cakes. And that's all for our Advent devotion today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.